Here let's write f explicitly. F equals minus gradient operator, so it's and with b. So what this gives is simply minus partial v partial x hat plus partial v partial y hat plus partial v partial z hat. And then let's work out del cross f. Del cross f is the determinant partial x, partial y, partial z, and f x, f y, f z. Here fx equals minus partial v partial x, fy equals minus partial v partial y, fz equals minus partial v partial z. And let's plug this in. So for the x component, it should be partial fz partial y minus partial fy partial z. So this gives partial square v partial y partial z, and the minus sign minus sign of partial square v partial z partial y, and this gives 0. And likewise in the y direction, and it should be partial z fx minus partial x of fz. Then this gives minus sign of partial v squared partial z partial x minus additional minus sign partial square v partial x partial z, which gives you 0 again. In the z direction, it should be partial fy partial x minus partial fx partial y, which is the same thing. Here should be minus partial square v partial x partial y, and minus again the same partial y partial x. This gives 0. So eventually this means that delta cross f equals 0.